A pleasant day to each and everyone. I would like to share to you my book review of Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk by Ben Fountain. The author is Ben Fountain. He is born in 1958, an American fiction writer living in Dallas, Texas. He won many awards, including a Penn Hemingway Award for Brief Encounters with Che Guevara Stories in 2007, and the National Book Critics Circle Award for Fiction for his debut novel Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk in 2012. He was born in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. He grew up in Elizabeth City, a tobacco town in eastern North Carolina. His family moved to Cary, near Raleigh, when he was 13. Fountain earned a business administration in English from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill in 1980, and a law degree from the Duke University School of Law in 1983. After a brief stint practicing real estate law at Akin Gump in Dallas, Fountain quit law in 1988 to become a full-time fiction writer. Background information about this literary piece. Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk is a razor-sharp satire set in Texas during America's war in Iraq. It explores the gaping national disconnect between the war at home and the war abroad. Ben Fountain's remarkable debut novel follows the surviving members of the heroic Bravo Squad through one exhausting stop in their media-intensive victory tour at Texas Stadium, football mecca of the Dallas Cowboys, their fans, promoters, and cheerleaders. It is a satirical war novel which was published in early May 2012 by Echo Press, a publishing imprint of HarperCollins. This chronicles of group experiences of Iraq War veterans who are hailed as heroes and sent on a victory tour following their engagement in an intense firefight that happened to be caught on camera. Set during a single day, the story primarily focuses on specialist Billy Lynn's perspective as he struggles to reconnect with his family and come to grips with a huge disconnect between the realities of the war at home and the war overseas as Bravo Squad is sent to take part in the Dallas Cowboys Thanksgiving halftime show. The novel's primary themes include fraternity, the commercialization of war, and what it really means to support the war when the real costs are barely felt by the majority of US citizens at home. A sharp satire, Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk is Fountain's first novel. It received highly positive reviews from critics and won several awards, including the National Book Critics Circle Award for Fiction and the Flaherty Donnan First Novel Prize. It was also a finalist for the 2012 National Book Award. The novel was especially praised for its dialogue and pitch-perfect ear for American talk. A film adaptation of the novel directed by Ang Lee was released in November 2016. A movie based on the novel premiered at the New York Film Festival October 14, 2016, and was theatrically released in the United States on November 11, 2016. Directed by Ang Lee, the film starred Joe Alwyn in the title role. Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk is a 2016 war drama film directed by Ang Lee and written by John Christoph Castelli based on the 2012 novel of the same name by Ben Fountain. The summary of the book. Prior to the start of the novel, 19-year-old Billy Lynn, a soldier in the United States Army, was involved in a firefight on the banks of the Al-Ansakar Canal in Iraq. During the fight, Billy attempted to save his mentor, Shroom, but Shroom died at the hands of Iraqi insurgents anyway. Because the firefight was filmed by an embedded news team, Billy's platoon was renamed Bravo Squad. Heralded as heroes, and President Bush asked them to return home for a two-week victory tour, culminating at the Dallas Cowboys Thanksgiving Day game. On Thanksgiving Day, Billy arrives in a limo to the Texas Stadium and thinks that it looks very different from the stadium he's seen on television. A group of college girls drives up along the limo and yells for the Bravos to put their windows down. When the soldiers do so, the girls' faces fall. They're uninterested in soldiers. A movie producer, Albert, rides with Bravo. He's trying to secure a movie deal to make a film about the firefight. And he announces that the actress Hilary Swank is interested in playing both Billy and his sergeant, Sergeant Dime. When the Bravos arrive at the stadium 2 hours before kickoff, none of the staff seem to know what to do with them. Sykes and Lodis wonder what their seats in their seventh row might cost, and Dime discusses the movie deal with Billy and Albert. Billy's thoughts wander to how he ended up in the military in the first place. When his sister, Catherine, suffered a horrific crash, her fiancé, Pussy Boy, broke off their engagement in retaliation. Billy destroyed Pussy Boy's car and joined the army to escape the felony charges. As Billy's mind wanders, he hopes that the Bravos handler, Josh, will bring him Advil for his headache. Finally, Billy decides to go find beer with Mango. When the two return, Dime is infuriated that they drank, but he sends them off to go find Major Mac, who has accompanied Bravo for unknown reasons. The hunt for him is futile. So Billy and Mango buy more beer and wander into a shop on the concourse selling overpriced items emblazoned with the Cowboys logo. They find the shop absurd. When they get back to their seats, Billy watches a panther warm up on the field and thinks that Shroom's ghost lives at the top of the football's arc. Suddenly, the Jumbotron shows the Bravos in their seats, and grateful citizens mob Bravo and thank them for their service. Billy is stoic and polite, but feels as though the people all need something from him. Finally, Josh announces that it's time for lunch and leads the Bravos up to the concourse, where people rush to Bravo, and many tell Billy that the Fox News footage looks just like a movie. At lunch, Billy feels almost sick at the sight of the massive buffet. He listens to Albert talk about dodging the draft for Vietnam, and Billy loses himself thinking about how Dime and Shroom ran the platoon in Iraq. Albert's conversations about the movie aren't going well, and Dime is especially angry when Albert shares that Universal Studios wants to set their story during World War II. Billy finally escapes to the restroom but is intercepted by Mango and a waiter. Hector, they Hector was the waiter. They all go outside to smoke marijuana, and Hector is shocked to hear that the Bravos have to return to Iraq. When he mentions that he's thinking of joining the army to get health insurance for his young daughter Billy, Mango and Hector wonder what else they can do. The novel steps back in time to Billy's visit home the day before. Billy's father, Ray, had once been a radio DJ, but after he suffered a double stroke, all of Ray's transgressions came out. His apartments in Dallas had been covered for his secret relationships, and he even has a secret teenage daughter. While Ray had once been loud, mean, and proudly conservative, the strokes left him in a, in a motorized wheelchair and mostly unable to talk, a relief to the entire family. Billy's mother, Denise, tries her hardest throughout Billy's visit to make things perfect. But Ray consistently ruins her attempts by smoking constantly and watching Fox News at full volume. In the morning, Billy constantly and in the morning, Billy takes his nephew Brian outside to play, and Billy painfully realizes that children like Brian die in the war. Catherine and Billy's other sister Patty join him outside. When Denise's boss, Mr. Whaley, stops by, he praises Billy's heroism and promises to pray for him, though Catherine insists that Billy could still die. Billy spends the rest of the afternoon napping in the yard and talking with Catherine. When he leaves in the morning, Ray watches Billy leave but doesn't say goodbye. And Catherine shares that she's been in contact with an organization that helps soldiers legally desert. Back in the present, Billy meets Norm Oglesby, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, in a meet and greet populated by rich Texans. As Billy listens to the conversations around him, he realizes he envies the rich as the war and death are simple talking points for them. An executive, Mr. Jones, introduces himself to Billy. Billy is strangely angry to see that Mr. Jones is carrying a gun, but he manages to engage Mr. Jones in a conversation about business. As the meet and greet draws to a close, other executives ask Bravo to sign Time magazine. And then Josh takes them to their press conference. When Bravo enters the room where the conference will take place, the cheerleaders go wild. Norm gives a long-winded speech about the Bravos, and Billy makes eye contact with the strawberry blonde cheerleader. Later, as two reporters ask Billy about ghostwriting a book about his experience at war, the cheerleader finds him. Her name is Faison, and she tells Billy that being a cheerleader mostly consists of doing service work. She tells Billy that she's a Christian, and as she rattles on about her relationship with Jesus, Billy leads her behind a curtain. They kiss and Billy picks her up. She orgasms and declares that she knows that what they're doing isn't wrong. As the conference comes to a close, she tells Billy to find her later. Billy doesn't realize where he is for a full half hour. He finds himself on the football field, apparently waiting to film a commercial. Josh arrives with footballs for Bravo to hold, and Billy begins a loose version of a tackle football with the other soldiers. After a few minutes, two men make the Bravo stop, and a film crew calls them over to film the advertisement. Dime is supposed to wish America a happy Thanksgiving, but he veers off script and also addresses soldiers in the field. Between takes, he and Norm discuss the Bravos movie, and it takes 5 takes to get the advertisement right. When it's finished, Norm leads Bravo to the locker room to get autographs from the players. Billy is in awe of the size of the players and doesn't want to pester them, but he feels strange ignoring them. When he gets to Octavian's parson, Octavian asks Billy about the weapons he uses in Iraq. Disturbed, Billy finds Dime, and Ennis, the equipment manager, offers Billy and Dime a tour of the equipment room. Billy feels nauseous seeing the amount of stuff the cowboys have. Ennis refuses to give Billy Advil for his headache and returns Billy and Dime to the locker room. Octavian calls Billy over and asks if the players could come to Iraq to help out and shoot Muslim freaks. Billy tells Octavian to join the army and Octavian scoffs. Later, Billy gives his football away to a twitchy boy. Norm invites Bravo to watch the kickoff from his private box. More rich people thank Bravo for their service. An old man named March Howie approaches Billy. Howie knew Bush as a boy and interrogates Billy about the success of the war. Billy lets his mind wander as Howie talks, and Billy thinks that there's a disconnect between these people's understanding of the war and the reality of it. As the national anthem begins, Billy watches Faison in the line of cheerleaders. When the anthem is over, Billy escapes to the front of the box to watch the game with other Bravos. Howie finds Billy again and discusses the merits of capitalism. Norm asks Bravo to leave after the first quarter. Once they're back in their seats, Billy decides to take Mango to go meet Faison. They find her and Billy feels as though he's never been happier. He receives a call from Abbott instructing him to return, with a cryptic and terrifying message about what halftime will entail. Marching on the field with Destiny's Child, Lodis, who got very drunk before halftime, struggles to follow Billy as the marching band start up. Fireworks that look like bombs go off and strobe lights flash. Billy feels as though the ground is tilting as he tries to follow his instructions. The Bravos find themselves backstage where a woman tells them that next they'll go out on stage with Destiny's Child. They briefly see Beyonce as she comes backstage to change, and then they take the stage with her. Billy notices Sykes weeping and looks at the sky. After the show, nobody comes for Bravos. They're all shaken, and Sykes still crying. The roadies nastily yell at them to leave, and all of a sudden, a brawl freaks out. Cops send Bravo across the field where they are met by Fiasa. She and Billy exchange phone numbers, and Josh finally appears to take Bravo back to their seats. Billy calls home and speaks to Catherine, who insists she needs to speak with the organization that will help him get out of returning to Iraq. She screams when he says he wants to go back. As Bravo settles in to watch the rest of the game, Sykes begins singing. Dime gave him Valium to calm him down. Billy receives a phone call from an unknown number. He listens to the voicemail and tries to decide what to do about Catherine's offer as the bougie woman sitting in front of Bravo notices that Lodis is asleep and kindly covers him with her snuggie. Dime informs Billy that they are going to meet with Norm. Albert meets them in the hallway outside Norm's office and tells them the news. Norm wants to fund the film, but he only wants to pay the Bravos $5,500 each for their story instead of the $100 that Albert promised. Dime refuses the deal, but Norm attempts to force Dime's acceptance by making him speak to the powerful General Ruthven. Dime speaks to the general but leaves the office without accepting Norm's deal. He explains to Billy that General Ruthven hates the cowboys. With 2 minutes to go in the game, Dime declares that it's time to leave. Out by the limo, Billy notices the crowd rippling and suddenly the roadies attack Bravo with pipes and crowbars. Mr. Jones fumbles his gun, but Major Max shoots it straight into the air. Right after Billy runs out of the limo to say goodbye to Fiason, he knows that their relationship is doomed when she's confused about why he wants to run away, but they kiss passionately anyway. As citizens mob Billy one last time, Billy realizes that their reality controls the trajectory of the war, and his first-hand knowledge means nothing. One notable review that I have read is from the Guardians. It is entitled Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk by Ben Fountain, review by Theo Tate, was posted on the Friday of July 6, 2012. Friday, July 6, 2012. It states that Fountain's blinder of a first novel has been a long time coming. Fountain is such an egregious late bloomer that a few years ago, Malcolm Gladwell wrote a New Yorker article about him. Back in 1988, he left his job as a property lawyer in Dallas, Texas, to write at his kitchen table. His first book, the acclaimed short story collection Brief Encounters with Che Guevara, was not published until 18 years later in 2006. Now, with Foundation well into his 50s, his full-length debut has finally emerged, a fierce, exhilarating novel about the Iraq War. Billy Lynn's Longtime Halftime Walk features no more than a few glimpses of a battle. It's set on the home front in 2004 or thereabouts, over one long Thanksgiving Day match at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. As Carl Marlantes, the Vietnam veteran and novelist who dubbed it the Catch-22 of the Iraq War, explained, it is a book about the American way of watching war. And it is terrific, eloquent and angry, funny and poignant. It doesn't particularly resemble Catch-22, but it recalls all sorts of good things. The delirious Playboy Bunny Stadium scene in Apocalypse Now, the outrageous military bunter in Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket, and all-American cacophony of Tom Wolfe when he was still funny, Norman Mailer's Anatomies of U.S. Celebrity, perhaps even the baseball game at the start of Don DeDilio's Underworld. Bravo Squad are heroes. They've been involved in a firefight in Iraq where they only tore apart a group of insurgents, Bibs or Hajis in the Army's harsh dialect, but were filmed doing so by an embedded journalist. As a reward, they have been plastered with medals and sent home on a 2-week propaganda tour. The novel set on the last day just before they fly back to Iraq. The men of Bravo are feeling soft, sated, blurry, underrested, and overproduced. After days of press conferences and nights of bars and strippers, for the 8 soldiers, the trip is an ambiguous experience to say the least, since they also lost one of their men during the fight. It's kind of weird, says Billy, the book's 19-year-old protagonist. Being honored for the worst day of your life, most of all, is hard work dealing with the American public being passed around like everyone's favorite bong. From the people in the hotel lobbies and football stands to the Texas super rich in their corporate boxes. Faced with a bona fide war hero, they go a bit out of their heads. They do. They mash and close, push and shove, grab at his arms, and talk too loud. The book opens with tag teams of grateful citizens, tam- trampolining right down the middle of Billy's hangover, and their patriotic words tumbling around his brain. Terry's freedom, Nino Levin, courage, sacrifice. Having fought for these people, he looks at them anew and finds them suddenly troubling. There's something harsh in his fellow Americans, a vague ecstatic, a burning that comes of the deepest need. That's his sense of it. They all need something from him. This pack of half-rich lawyers, dentists, soccer moms, and corporate VPs, they're all gnashing for a piece of a barely grown grant making $14,800 a year. There's one long flashback in Billy Lynn describing Billy's return home to a small Texas town, and some brief passages set in Iraq. Otherwise, it's a day-long set piece evoking America as a nightmare of superabundance. The Bravos eat a disgustingly big lunch, meet the Dallas Cowboys, industrial-sized humans with beer keg heads and redwood necks. Listen to grotesque speeches from Norm Oglesby, the team's unlovely owner. At the center of the book, there's a halftime show fronted by Destiny's Child, a jingoistic circus where the Bravos are forced to march next to cheerleaders and scantily clad dancers, pouring light out of its mind on marital doom. The novel is niftily postmodern in that it deals with heavily mediated reality. Bravo Squad aren't even called Bravo Squad, but that was what the Fox embed christened them. They hear their story being spun in real time. Carl, what can I say? Says Albert, the movie producer on the phone. It's a war picture. Not everybody gets out alive. The stadium is dominated by the huge Jumbotron screen. Billy wonders whether maybe the game is just an ad for the ads. But Fountain, like better known writers of his generation, such as Jonathan Franzen and David Foster Wallace, has dragged this ironic, media saturated style back in the direction of sincerity, with rich, sharply drawn characters that you care about. Beneath the dazzle, there's a story as old and simple as Kipling's poem Tommy. They sent me to the gallery of around the musicals, but when it comes to fighting Lord, they show me in the stalls. Billy Lynn isn't perfect. The plot strands holding the set pieces together are thin. Billy's flirtation with the cheerleader is, as the book itself acknowledges, the sort of delusion a desperate soldier would dream up, and the novel is sometimes coarsened by its political agenda. In case you haven't noticed, this is a highly partisan country we live in, says Billy Sargent. And George W. Bush and Dick Cheney get an entertaining kicking. People who support the war, such as Billy's horrendously bigoted dad, tend to be inferior human beings. Bravo Squad are suspiciously liberal. Mostly Fountain does an excellent job of grafting an alienated, educated, leftish perspective onto his cast of young soldiers, but at times the mass slips. They love to talk up God and country, but it's the devil they propose. All those busy little biochemical devils of sex and death and war, and that simmer at the base of the skull. Thinks Billy, a great line that doesn't sound much like a 19-year-old who barely graduated from high school. But then, if the novel had a quieter, more realistic voice, it wouldn't be half as fun or interesting. Fountain has a marvelous ear for dialogue, and Billy Lynn is written in a sharp, profane language that makes English sound terminally dull. Even the rain is rude. It's raining sort of the air filled with a dangling broke dick missile, scores of smart metaphors and similes zip by, their faces set with the pinched look of angry vegans, forcing the cheer like Christmas lights in the poor part of town. Billy Lynn is an exhilarating read and convincingly, it belatedly, damning of Bush America. My personal analysis. Billy Lynn's longtime halftime show is a story defining finally what is fantasy and reality in the media, showcasing what is entertaining and money magnet when it comes to storytelling. It also courageously presented the America's struggle to class, power, and wealth, the comfort and fear they bring on the presence and the absence of them. It brought also the concept of absurdity of war. Though with short scenes mentioned in the book, we know that war is not a comforting place. Moreover, the piece enlightened us about brotherhood and family. This proves that no matter how great you are, wherever you may be considered the greatest, there is no place like home. Lastly, heroism and humanity are also thickly distinguished, answering the questions on soldiers are killers and others. The literary piece is a good source of realizations about America's greatness and obscurity. We all know how America as a nation have been entangled with different battles and wars for many decades now, which not all are intended for them. United States of America as a nation is a beautiful representation of what can our country can become. However, this story entails the truth that there is no perfection in a community of people whose mindset is to receive more and to give less. The soldiers who are fighting for their country sacrifice everything in their lives to fight for the cause they believe is worth it. However, as the Bravo Squad's inner conflicts manifested on the narration, specifically Billy Lynn, we find their questions about the worthiness of what they have been sacrificing. They were given a victory tour for a televised heroic deed, but since of break torn this break torn them by realizing that they are just part of an entertainment as they were only being capitalized by the elites but not truly being appreciated as heroic individuals. The story depicts that America gives no more care to what is the war about and how it is being won. They only celebrate the victories as promotions but not really for its moral. Billy Lynn's realization of the disconnect between the people's understanding of the war and the reality of it represents their lack in intention to support the soldiers and the gratitude in their daily sacrifices. Fountains show the differences on how the football team Cowboys are being provided and groomed as sport heroes with their physiques and bounty staffs they have, while Lynn with the other soldiers suffer in the real war facing fears and deaths. The extravagance of the football halftime show in Thanksgiving Day, though it was only an overnight, proved to Lynn that America lost its concept of greatness. It is now defined with luxuries and fame, but to Lynn it is change and nationalism. Lynn bravely chose to move forward, though he was affected by Shroom's death, father's intentional ruthlessness, Kathleen's persuasion to stay, questions against America's heart, and coming into reality of his fantasy towards love and future through Fireson. Furthermore, the nationalism is unwavering, or his nationalism is unwavering because it was unmoved by her negative thoughts and convincing voices for him to give up the cause. So, generally, I have three important thoughts about the piece. First, not all we see in media showcases the truth. Second, life is uncertain. It does not have one pattern fits all concept. And of course, lastly, it takes experience to empathize, especially with regards to our public servants like the soldiers. Billy Lynn's long halftime walk is a masterpiece on its own. Its honesty and straightforwardness in dealing with America's insincerity and the war's absurdity, we can all say that truth has a price. If we want it, we must be ready to feel the pain. Just like in a war, if we want to win, we need to sacrifice the certainty of living. Because anytime on the battlefield, you may lose it. And that ends my report. Thank you and God bless.